Hello, everyone, and hello, Blair. It's so nice to have you here and join me. It's been a while since we had a chat, and thank you so much for taking my invitation and becoming a guest on the show.
Hey, Lee, thanks a lot. It's great to talk about marketing and learning with you and with your audience. So I'm really happy to be here.
I'm going to give a little bit of context because I think the way we met originally is pretty interesting, and the audience will not know you, but they are going to realize because I've told this story on the channel before. I think it was in 2019 when I attended the social media week. I attended one of the panels that you were moderating. And after seeing you in the social media week and like being the moderator, I've always had the dream of working for an educational institution and teaching in a professional environment. And I reached out to you through email and I told you about having this aspiration. And you were the person who helped me along that journey. And I'm forever thankful for the introduction and how it rolled out, because that was definitely a dream come true for me. And with that, I'm going to hand over the mic to you because I want to hear from you, like what you're currently doing and yeah, just a bit more context for the audience.
Great, thanks for that. And I remember that panel for Social Media Week. We were talking about not-for-profits and how to maximize the impact for usually a small budget. And it was a wonderful conversation. And you know what? It's these like unintended types of meetups that are the sort of long term, the long tail effect of all of that. So it's really cool to weave that conversation with
Yeah.
you over the past number of years to tonight and then beyond. Yeah, this is great. And folks, my name is Blair, and I am a marketing prof at George Brown College. I'm also the head of our digital marketing postgraduate certificate. I design and teach a course with the Canadian Marketing Association, and I started a idea called the Year Ones, which I'll talk about a little bit further. But all of these different things all ladder up to my core belief that marketing is an essential literacy in the 21st century, and the work I do involves marketing, learning design, and I guess innovation, trying to do it in a way that is always evolving and pushing boundaries. So all those different things all tie in together to helping people become better marketers and really start their career in what I think is the best job in the world.
Totally agree. I'm definitely on board with you, and I've always loved your approach to teaching marketing as well and learning marketing. Actually, not I'm not going to even say teaching because just how you always approach it from a learner's perspective has really amazed me and taught me about how I want to approach teaching from my end. But anyway, I want to get to the year one show because I haven't really dived into it yet, and I'm really curious, what is it about? And I know that it's I just read the mission briefly, and I know it helps young marketers to gain more confidence in their marketing journeys. Is that correct? Can you tell us a little bit more about the show?
Yeah, so the Year One's idea, I launched it in the spring of 2022, and it's starting out with a show. Right now it's a podcast, and I'm evolving it to include video in the near future. By the time you might see this, there might be videos involved as well. But it was based on the insight that typically what I've seen is folks want to get insights and advice from people working in marketing. And most of the time, the people who are giving that advice are folks who are like directors, vice presidents, more senior level marketers. And so they're on a certain plane. And then there's folks who are literally have worked in marketing for 0 days or 1 day.
Yeah.
And it's a disconnect because these folks talk at a different level and forget what it's like to really be in the trenches, so to speak, and how to get that first job in marketing. So that was my insight. And I'm like, you know what? I want to talk with folks, build a community of folks who are in their early career in marketing, So year one, two-ish, who can help folks who want to start their career by sharing different entry level marketing jobs, giving tips on how the job search went for them. Try to just be there for them, get them through this journey. Because within market, and we'll talk about how I approach it, if you look at marketing from its whole level, there are a number of different pathways in, and the different roles are there. I don't want to say endless, but there are many different
It really
types
feels
of
like
things you.
endless sometimes.
What's that,
It
Elif?
sometimes really does feel endless. There's so many different specializations and paths and different industries that it really does confuse people.
Yeah, so it's trying to help clarify it and going through the job search, especially for someone who is new. It's an emotional, I don't know, it's an emotional roller coaster. I like to try to frame it up more positively, like it's a game that you have to play. There's going to be some setbacks, but if you keep going and you follow through the steps, eventually you'll get through it and you'll get that job. So we're here to help people navigate through all that and make playing the job search game a bit more fun.
I love the idea. That's also the very similar to the mission of my channel. It's always been so for my perspective, I have actually never had any marketer friends around me throughout my whole career until I got to a point where I was pretty experienced and then started meeting more marketers. But until that point, I always felt like super lonely. And it was very difficult to navigate through all of those different decision-making points. And it was just a struggle to figure out what was the right thing to do and what was the right entry. So I love any kind of initiative that helps junior and aspiring marketers to navigate it better because like I 100% agree that there's better ways to do it. Like you can do it more effectively, you can do it with less mistakes and less frustrations. And if that's possible, then why don't we facilitate building that community through what you are doing with the year one show or through what I'm doing with this channel? So love that. We're definitely going to have all the links for your website and maybe the latest episodes link in the description below. And how many episodes has there been so far?
So right now we are finishing up. So I'm going by seasons and 9 episode chunks. So we're finishing up our season 2 at the end of the calendar year 2022, and we'll have 18 episodes up there.
Perfect. Okay, that's 18 different stories to get inspiration from and takeaways from all those people. That's awesome. Okay, we're already warmed up to the conversation, but I wanted to warm up a little bit more by asking, since you get exposed to so many students on a daily basis and you've been doing this for years now, what is like the top question that you get from your students in marketing?
So this one is actually, I'm going to say it's going to be a bit I think counterintuitive and what you might not expect. But the one thing that I get asked of my students is what additional certifications should I do? So it's like I try to say, well, hold on, just focus on passing this program first, but they're concerned about other certifications that might help them. And they're typically asking for the free online micro credentials or smaller types of those free offerings by different companies involved in market. So yeah, that's the main question that I get. It's like what next?
Yeah, that's interesting because when they're already in an educational program, I would have thought the top question would be like how to get into the professional life, but it's more so that they feel the need to support their education even further with more certificates and more additional courses to become an even better candidate when it comes to the time for application. And it's interesting because I feel like I'm definitely pro education and learning as much as you can to prepare you and become a better candidate. But at the same time, I feel like you don't actually get the experience without getting the experience and getting your hands dirty in something. So I've always suggested to go for that route versus taking more certificates. Certificates come in when you feel like a skill is missing, and you can complement it by doing it.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. And what I share with folks who answer this question is really to that. It's, well, there are a number of different online courses that have typically free certifications available from organizations like Google, Hootsuite for social media marketing, HubSpot that does a range of different things from CRM to content to email, and Amazon. These companies all have some sort of education platform, but it really is all about, okay, you're doing this program, more kind of formal learning with me. What skill, what area do you want to, are you curious about building further and maybe make that your year one in marketing? And then it's okay, go and do this. I never say do all the certifications, which I think is the answer people want. It's here's a laundry list of things to do. It's invest the time to focus on the certifications that are relevant for the skill that you want to develop, and then go from there.
Absolutely. I'm 100% with you. So I'm gonna weave that into one of the biggest questions that I received from my audience so that I can ask you is how to actually choose the program. There are a variety of marketing programs as well, even when it comes to like formal learning. How do they choose which program is the best for them when they have yet no information about what they want to do?
Yeah, I don't even know how to go about this because it honestly seems like everybody is selling some sort of marketing education these days. So let me try to break it down a little bit. I guess the first decision is, do you want a formal accredited experience that comes with a credential that's more recognized? And that would be going to a university or college that would deliver that. Those typically, you need to be ready to invest between, say, 2 and 4 years, 2 years for a basic college diploma, up to 4 years for a university undergraduate degree with honors. So if you want that, it's more time, you get a formal accredited diploma or certificate. If you maybe say have a diploma or undergraduate degree in another field that's not related to, say, business, marketing, communications, you might not want to go and do that full multi-year credential again. So doing something like a postgraduate certificate, which is what I'm focused on at George Brown College, and some of the universities are offering it as well. They're typically around a year, and usually they involve some sort of work term component. That's a good option for someone who wants to, I guess, evolve but not fully go back to an undergraduate degree or diploma.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of questions from folks who've done that. It's, I have an arts degree, I have an engineering degree, I have all myriad different backgrounds. These postgraduate certificates, they go deep, they're full time for that year, but they do help folks and they do get them into the essentials to start a career in marketing. So you don't have to have a background in business or in media or in advertising or marketing, anything related to that, communications. You can come in with any type of background. So those are the formal education paths.
Yeah, and then you just like briefly mentioned about the work term or the co-op programs that some of these postgraduate certificates or diploma programs have. And having worked as an academic work term coordinator for one of those at George Brown, I think those programs are actually really, really useful for folks who want to just maybe even keep going at that same company that they have had the internship with. So whenever I think when a program actually facilitates that co-op experience, I think personally, I find it even more helpful, especially given that this is the marketing field. And I think you literally have to learn through working in it to understand if this is working for you or if there is a certain specialization that works better for you.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the one of the benefits to any program. If you can, find one that does offer that. One, the actual curriculum is more applied. So we're right now, I'm working in Canada, and we consider colleges and universities differently. Universities are traditionally more places where it's more church-based, more, I use the word like principles theory, and I don't want to say that in a bad way because I think a lot of people give theory a bad rap, but it's different than colleges, which is more applied, practical practice education. So you need to, and there's no right or wrong there. In Canada, there's a difference between university and college. And typically the college programs tend to have more of those pathways, at least for marketing, into those work terms and things. So it's a really good point. I think it's helpful for folks who want to really start their career.
Yeah, and it's also very helpful that you mentioned the difference between how a college approaches education and how a university approaches it. I don't think it's always very clear, especially when you are coming from the rest of the world where it's not very commonly used. Like the term university and college are in most places, honestly, I think they're used in exchange of each other. There is no major difference. So it's great that we touched upon that. So that brings me to a couple of the questions that I had about co-ops and work terms. We talked about the importance already, but like when choosing co-ops, what is more important? Is it choosing based on industry or position or both?
I know folks who are looking to get in always want the clearest, quickest path to the answer. And even in talking with some of the folks on the Year One show, it's like split. I've had people who are like, I wanted to get into a certain industry and in doing marketing in the industry, but I didn't care what I was doing in marketing. So if you really are deeply interested in getting into a certain industry, whatever that is, because it's really important for your lifestyle, then focus on an industry. If you're not as concerned about that, but maybe I really want to become a social media manager, or I really want to get into search engine optimization, or I really want to get into paid advertising, then find a role within that position and see where you might go for different industries as your career unfolds. So I don't want to say one is more or less important, but it really comes down to a bit of self-reflection and awareness of what you want that first step to be.
Okay, that's a great recap of it. And here's another question about making the most of your education. So I divided the questions into different sections. And I think this is important. And I wish I had known the answer to doing this better during university. How to build strong relationships with profs and mentors.
So being on the side when I'm in leading my classes, the best thing is to be curious. Ask a question. It doesn't have to necessarily be with your camera on, with your voice. We now have different modes. Send an email, message through whatever Teams, Slack, whatever you use. Put your hand up in class or online. That's showing that you're curious, helps make you, helps make you memorable. And I don't want to say that, I want to say that as a real perspective. I see between 40 and 50 students per class, and I might teach up to 4 classes every semester. So that is between 150 and 200 different people 3 times a year. And if you don't show curiosity, you risk just being another person who's a bit more anonymous. So Asking questions is always a great currency, and you need to be confident in maybe having the right answer or maybe not having the right answer. But either way, it's going to be a learning experience for everybody, and a good faculty will still make you feel okay, even if that answer isn't the right answer. And that's what I try to do. But really, it's being curious, and that starts with asking questions.
Totally agree. And I think that's an essential future that any marketer needs to have. It's a soft skill that is honestly for me a requirement for a marketer almost. If you're able to start that off even at that in a class environment, then I think that's a great sign that you're already showcasing the skills that you're likely going to need once you are in professional life too.
If I may, I want to share something from someone who is in my program who I spoke with on the year ones as well. And it's important not just to build relationships with your profs or your faculty or other external partners. This person shared how they got their job, and it was all about just being a good team member in group work. So they went with a cohort, and they contributed positively, constructively in their group. And I don't think the person was necessarily the best friends with somebody else, but after graduating, and it was probably 6 to 9 months, so towards the end of their year one, they got a message from one of their classmates who was working in another company who remembered them from doing group work. And the person said, "Hey, we're hiring somebody. I remember you from from working on the team. I think you would be great for this job."
Oh,
And
that's wonderful.
the person said, "Sure, I'm interested." They fast tracked the interview, and now the two of them are working together. So part of it is just be a good classmate, be a good team player, because you don't know when one of your classmates might have a job that they think you're a good fit for and reach out to you.
Agreed. And I think this is a wonderful example, but I think it's really relevant, especially for the continuing education certificates and diplomas, where I remember from my students, a lot of them actually had years of prior like work experience. So when they add the marketing skills on top of it, when they go back to working, they are already, some of them were in decision-making positions. And in this case, I don't know if that was the situation, but in those cases where people have that like graduate from the certificate, they go back to working, and then they're already like in a maybe managerial position where they can immediately hire from a team member that they worked on a school project before, which is such a smooth transition, honestly, I would think it's pretty rare. It does happen.
Yeah, and I think what's important to note within the job search is you mentioned decision making. The person from the company that reached back out wasn't the decision maker. They were an influencer, we'll call it, in that process, but they would have still hired the person as a peer. So that was a junior person who was in the company who remembered and said, "Hey, you should do this." And then they still influenced
Yeah.
the the HR person, and then the hiring manager. This was a larger company, so they would have had those
Mhm.
different layers, but they influenced that to get help, to be one of the factors in getting the person hired.
Okay, so I'll now move on to from making the most of the education to preparing for post-graduation, which is also the area that you primarily focus on with the year ones show as well. And so, what do you think are the essential marketing skills that college students should, or university students should start to develop early on while still studying?
When you say the word marketing, many people immediately jump to and think about advertising, the stuff that they see on their on websites, in the world around them every day, because that's like the most visible out, output of what marketing does. But I would suggest actual marketing, like pure marketing, is it's before all of that. I joke it's like inside the four walls of the organization and then outside the four walls. It's all about understanding your audience, figuring out what benefits, what sort of product you're going to deliver to meet that audience, and how your mix of kind of features and benefits is different or unique from the competition. So it's like segmenting, targeting, positioning, which is core marketing, some core marketing terms. And anybody, regardless of where you are in marketing, having a sense of that and really an audience first mindset is critical, either within your education. If you take formal marketing education, this will be baked into it. But if you haven't done that, really getting an understanding of segmenting, targeting, positioning, which is really core like marketing stuff.
Agreed. And I'll also then continue into what areas of marketing do you think are growing for the future? Maybe we can talk about what are the most popular areas that your now graduated students have moved on to, or what do you see as some of the most trending, some of the most popular, and maybe fields with the most job opportunities right now for new graduates or people who are students right now?
Within marketing, and then digital marketing, which is really about marketing communication using online communication formats and platforms. And all of kind of digital marketing it's still growing. Like, we're within what I'm seeing, we have strong demand for learners, and those learners are being absorbed by different companies into different roles. So there's still a strong demand across the spectrum of marketing. I do know we do send, or not, the highest percentage of our graduates go and work within an agency, an advertising agency, doing some type of paid advertising. So paid social, paid search, or search engine marketing, SEM, or programmatic. And programmatic specifically is one area that I know there's a gap, there's a demand for people, and there are not enough folks coming into the market. So programmatic advertising, it's very technical, it's very analytic, but that is a growing area. I would also say, because of how social networks continue to grow and evolve, and the foundation for all of those is essentially, it starts with being able to understand them and then create content for those platforms. Working in content marketing, content creation, and social media marketing is still an area that is growing as well. And then I would say the third place is stuff that doesn't get a lot of talk, but is still it's the marketing that does work. It's email and website, and these type of roles, it kind of is getting bundled into like marketing technology or marketing automation. If you see those buzzwords, that kind of means like website and email marketing. And these are they're more, you need to understand software technology a little bit, some light coding to be able to maybe manipulate around emails. And that space is growing as well, still demand there. And a lot of that kind of covers all of the different aspects. But definitely within advertising, programmatic has strong demand right now in social, understanding the social networks, especially the ones that are newer and evolving quickly, at least in North America perspective, like TikTok, Instagram continues. I'm bullish on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's going to continue to grow. It's kind of the most pure social network that's been isolated from a lot of the news. So content for those networks to connect with those audiences. And then, email marketing, website marketing, and being able to work with the marketing automation there.
Yeah, definitely agree with the suggestions. And it does cover a lot of different roles within marketing, to be honest. Like, those are the skill sets. But if you kind of were to look at it from a role perspective, there's so many roles that all of those different skill sets could be under, like copywriting, social media marketing, video creator even, which is something I would definitely add to the list, by the way, like multimedia content creation. So not just written content, but multimedia. I'm seeing more and more of that skill being a requirement in a lot of job posts, which is cool to see, but it is challenging as well. So it's like it's a whole different skill set to add on top of everything else.
I think the most important thing out of all of it is like saying I want to get into digital marketing. It's too big. There's no such thing as digital marketing. So you really need to find and break down what is that space within digital marketing. Now, in some organizations, typically organizations that are smaller, they might have roles like digital marketing coordinator, digital marketing specialist, where it does cover, try to do all of those. But if you're still trying to sort it out and you're like, I don't really know, maybe find one of those roles. Again, typically it's a smaller organization that wants somebody to kind of really do a little bit of many things.
Agreed. It's like when you're a solo marketer for a small organization, they're typically looking for a generalist, is what I like to call it, which can take care of a lot of things under the marketing umbrella without much direction. I guess that's usually the case. Like I've had a couple of those experiences in my past, and they actually were helpful in the sense that I explored what I wanted to do more of and what I really hated doing. So it's not always a bad thing to go for generalist roles because it just helps you to discover what you don't like and what you like.
Totally. And I'm not saying those aren't out there, but just when you're when you're preparing for your post grad and starting to look, if you can, try to think of an area or two that you're really curious about digging into. Don't just say like, I'm a digital marketing graduate. Like, okay, you need to help me out. Where do you want to go?
I see a lot of people applying for jobs or writing to me in messages and saying they list a whole list of areas that they're interested in marketing. And I'm like, that's not helpful to identify an opportunity for you and match you with something because they're not going to be able to do all of that. Like, you have to find something that is more interesting to you and focus on that first. If it doesn't work out, then you can still switch and make a change later on, but you can't do everything at once. It's just like too broad for other people to help you as well.
You got to think like it as a marketer. And there's a classic saying in marketing, it's like, if you try to be everything to everyone, you'll be nothing to no one. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing. If you are saying, I'm interested in all of the digital marketing things, the person looking at that, they're going to be like, well, I don't really know what you want to do. You're not really helping me figure it out. So you need to try to have some idea of the areas you're most interested in. And if you have a bit of practice, where you're strongest in, like, if you went to school, where did you get the higher marks, or where were you most engaged? What topics were you most interested in? And try to kind of target and narrow it down based on those things.
Yeah, that's how I kicked off my career, by the way, when I was doing an MBA and was taking like different courses under marketing. The one that stood out to me the most was content marketing. And when I was doing my MBA, like content marketing was only known in North America and not rest of the world. It was so new at that time. But I immediately knew that this was extremely attractive to me. So I did like a graduation project on that to explore the topic even further. And then that led me to start my search with content marketing roles or inbound marketing roles in particular, which was very helpful to narrow down my options. And that brings me to the question of how or what should a new marketing grad be doing for job search? Where should they start? We talked about narrowing down some options, looking at certain skill sets and areas that they are more interested in or are more capable or adept in. But what else should they be doing for job search?
So definitely, yeah, the first thing is try to narrow down, or as some folks who I've talked to, they say it's like niche down, and that's like kind of fundamental marketing. Otherwise, like you've got to be you've got to be in the job search game to win the job search game. So just being in it and And it's a full-time job to search for a job, and it can be a quick process or a long process, but you need to do it in different ways. So there's like looking on LinkedIn or the job boards for jobs that are posted. You do some of that. Think about industries or and then companies you're interested in, and see what they might have directly on their website for job listings. Even if they don't have something and you're really interested in them, find a way to reach out and make your interest known. And even if they don't have something on their website, do some of the online networking. Find somebody who might work in the organization and contact them through LinkedIn, through Twitter, through Instagram. I've used all of those platforms in the past to introduce myself to people, and that have kind of resulted in me having some sort of conversation with them. So approach things that way, because they might know of jobs that aren't posted or where you're not looking. So those are kind of like, you got to be doing all those different things, and there's no one right or wrong way. I would say be persistent as well. Just because maybe a desirable company that you're interested in isn't hiring right now doesn't mean they're not going to be hiring in 2 weeks, in a month, or in a couple months. So you need to maybe go back to that as well. So
Yeah, a no now doesn't mean a no in the future as well. So keep trying, definitely.
no, so it's just like, it's being in the game, it's trying different things, doing things that work for you. Some people are more comfortable doing that. I'm going to use the N word, and that's networking. Going to people live, some people are more comfortable like that. Me, I'm a bit more of an introvert. I'm not good like that in a live room, but on LinkedIn it works for me. Or I find ways in events to talk to, like, I go to events and I'm happy if I meet one person. I don't have to go and meet a million people. I'd rather have one meaningful conversation. So find a way that works for you. And going back to what we were saying before, it really helps to tailor your message. Niche down, try to focus on something, because it will help that person sort of figure out, again, what you're interested in, and if they have something, or they might know of someone, how you might be a fit. Not just say, I'm interested in all the things.
Yeah,
You need
help them
to,
help
you need to
you.
be targeted. Yeah, it helps. Yeah, help them help you.
Yeah, and how I think about it is like from all of what you shared already, and it obviously does overlap with what I how I think about it too, but like it's the job search process is almost, I think of it as, imagine that you are running a marketing campaign for yourself almost, and like approach it from that angle. If you want inbound opportunities, you have to do the work and put in the work to create the content so that you are more attractive to hiring managers and they can see your content. I know so many people that have been hired this way on LinkedIn, and it's like unbelievable. They have changed careers. They have been hired by the biggest companies in the world because of their content on LinkedIn, for example. So all of these cases happen, but I kind of treat it like almost like a campaign that you're running. You define your audience, and then you target your messaging for that audience so that what you are providing is valuable to them. They know that you're addressing them, etc. So it's like this all full circle. But thanks so much for all the insights. The last question I have is, what is your top tip to Blair in the first year of your career, to the 21-year-old Blair, or whenever you entered marketing?
So be a good person. Since I started my career, I've been hired about, I think, 10 times. I've never been fired, but I've been downsized. I've been told this job isn't right for you. I've been told this job isn't or this company's not right for you. I've kind of gone through all of the different things, but I always took the high road, and it always ended up working out. So be a good person, roll with the downs, because there's going to be downs, and say yes to opportunities. I never had any plan to get into designing and facilitating learning for marketing, but somehow I'm doing this today, and I can't imagine doing, well, I can't imagine doing other things, but I don't, that's a whole other topic, but I honestly can't imagine doing anything else. But I got here from putting in the hard work and being a good person. So roll with it, take the downs when they happen, and folks like Elif, folks like myself, or the year ones, we're here to help you move through that journey when the inevitable downs happen, because there's always going to be an up from there.
Absolutely. And even the best of us has had the downs and the no's and all of that in between. And that's a wonderful, wonderful tip. Thank you. I'm also taking a part of it for myself too. Well, thank you so much. This was a wonderful conversation. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure it's going to be so helpful for our audience as well. It was a pleasure having you. And for the listeners or viewers, if you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will have Blair's links in the description below, so you can connect with him on LinkedIn, personalize your notes. That's my personal tip there. And you can tune into the Year One's show through the link as well.
Awesome. This was great, Elif. I appreciate this opportunity. Thanks for reaching out. And yeah, folks, if there's any questions that you have, please feel free to reach out, and happy to talk anytime. This is great.